The silence in my empty house was deafening. After 15 months deployed in Afghanistan, I dreamed of coming home to the warmth of my wife's embrace, the smell of her cooking, the sound of her laughter filling our modest ranch house in Colorado Springs. Instead, I stood in the doorway holding my duffel bag, staring at bare walls where our wedding photos used to hang, empty shelves where Meredith's books had been stacked, and a kitchen table with only one chair remaining. A note lay on the counter, written in her familiar handwriting. "Wesley, I can't do this anymore. I've moved in with Camden. Don't try to contact me. The divorce papers are with the lawyer. Camden." My younger brother Camden. The betrayal hit me like an IED blast, sudden, devastating, leaving me struggling to breathe. But that was only the beginning. When I drove to my parents' house seeking comfort and support, my father opened the door with a scowl that could have melted steel. "Well, if it isn't the great soldier," he said, his voice dripping with contempt. "Heard you finally came home to find your wife gone. Can't say I'm surprised, you were always too selfish to keep a woman happy." My mother appeared behind him, shaking her head with disappointment. "Wesley, you chose the military over your marriage. Camden was there for Meredith when you weren't. You've got no one to blame but yourself." As I stood there in my dress uniform, medals on my chest representing 15 months of combat service, my own parents looked at me like I was the villain in this story. They'd been living in the house I'd been paying the mortgage on for 3 years, driving the car I'd bought them, using the credit card I'd been funding, all while defending the son who'd stolen my wife. They had no idea I was about to become stronger than they ever imagined. 3 years later, I had built a life of peace and purpose they could never destroy. I was promoted to lieutenant colonel, owned my own home debt-free, and surrounded myself with people who respected honor, loyalty, and service. The family that had betrayed me was struggling without my financial support, begging for reconciliation I would never grant. But let me take you back to that day I discovered my entire family had betrayed me. If you're new to this channel, like this video and subscribe for more stories where justice hits hard and betrayal never goes unpunished. My name is Wesley Kane, and at 38, I'd spent half my life serving in the United States Army. From an enlisted soldier fresh out of high school to a major with 2 Bronze Stars and a Purple Heart, the military had given me purpose, discipline, and a brotherhood stronger than blood. Growing up in small-town Kansas, I was the older son who never quite measured up to my parents' expectations. Camden, 6 years younger, was the golden child, the athlete, the charmer, the one who could do no wrong. When I enlisted at 18, my parents called it running away from responsibility. When Camden got his business degree and started his marketing company, they called it finally having a successful son. But I kept supporting them anyway. For 15 years I'd been sending money home. My parents' mortgage payments when Dad's farming income fell short. Camden's business loans when his marketing company struggled. Car repairs, medical bills, home improvements. I'd covered it all because I believed family took care of family. The money I sent wasn't pocket change. Between my salary, combat pay, and deployment bonuses, I was earning good money, most of which went straight to Kansas. Every month, $800 for my parents' mortgage, $300 for their car payment, $500 for Camden's business loan, plus regular emergencies that required immediate transfers. I met Meredith Caldwell 4 years ago at a coffee shop near Fort Carson, where she worked as a physical therapist at the base hospital. She was 28, with auburn hair and eyes that seemed to understand the weight soldiers carried. We married after 18 months of dating in a simple ceremony at the base chapel. Camden was my best man. Meredith and I were happy. Our little ranch house became my sanctuary between deployments. The financial arrangement was practical. I had my paycheck direct deposited into our joint account, and Meredith managed our household expenses while I was deployed. What I didn't realize was how much I was still sending to my family in Kansas. "Wesley, your family really depends on you," Meredith had said once, looking at our bank statements. "Do they know how much you're sacrificing for them?" I'd brushed off her concern. Family takes care of family. They'd do the same for me. I was naive. They never did anything for me except take. The deployment that would change everything began in March 2019. 15 months in Kandahar province, leading a logistics unit responsible for supply convoys throughout southern Afghanistan. It was dangerous work, IED attacks, Taliban ambushes, constant threat assessments, but it was work that mattered. At first, our conversations were warm, full of longing and plans for when I returned. But as weeks turned into months, Something changed in Meredith's voice. The warmth cooled, conversations became shorter, and she seemed distracted during our calls. "How's work?" I'd ask. "Fine," she'd reply, no longer sharing detailed stories about her day. "Fine." That word became her standard response to everything. Meanwhile, my family's financial needs seemed to intensify. Dad called with a crisis about farm equipment. $4,500 needed immediately. Mom needed emergency surgery, another $3,000. Camden's business was expanding, $8,000 for equipment and marketing. I sent the money every time, often depleting savings accounts Meredith and I had built together. "Wesley, we need to talk about these expenses," Meredith said during one video call, holding bank statements. "Your family is asking for a lot of money." "They're struggling," I defended. "They need help. But we have goals too. How can we plan for our future if we're constantly supporting your parents and brother?" Her question frustrated me. Family takes care of family. They'd do the same for us if we needed help. Meredith had gone quiet. "Would they, Wesley? Really?" That was probably the moment she started pulling away. Around month 8, the changes became obvious. Our calls went from daily to every few days. Her emails became brief, factual updates. When I tried to discuss our plans for when I returned, she'd deflect or change the subject. "How's Camden doing?" I'd ask, since he lived closest to Colorado. "He's fine," she'd say quickly. "Busy with work." "Is he still helping look after you like he promised?" "Sometimes." Her answers about Camden became increasingly brief. During month 12, the distance became a chasm. Meredith stopped initiating calls. When I finally demanded an explanation, she'd been cold as winter. "Wesley, we need space when you get back. We need to figure out if this marriage is working." "What do you mean?" "We're married. We love each other." "Do we?" "I feel like I've been alone for 15 months, and I'm not sure I want to keep living this way." The signs had been there if I'd been paying attention. Camden's increasing visits to Colorado Springs, always with business excuses. His knowledge of details about Meredith's work that she hadn't shared with me. His casual mentions of places in town I knew Meredith liked to visit. I was the biggest fool who ever wore the uniform. The flight home from Afghanistan was the longest 15 hours of my life. I'd spent the entire trip wondering what I'd find, hoping I was wrong about everything. The empty house confirmed my worst fears. Furniture missing, personal items gone, that devastating note on the counter revealing not just abandonment, but betrayal by my own brother. That first night in a cheap motel room, I tried calling my parents for support. Surely they'd be as shocked and hurt by Camden's betrayal as I was. Dad answered on the third ring. "Wesley? What time is it?" "Dad, I need to talk to you." "About Meredith and Camden." Silence. Too long of a silence. "Wesley, son, maybe you should come home. We need to have a family conversation." The 3-hour drive to Kansas gave me time to hope my parents would be allies. I was wrong. Dad opened the door before I could knock, his expression not surprise or sympathy, but irritation. "Well, if it isn't the great soldier," he said, making my military service sound like a character flaw. "Heard you finally came home to find your wife gone." "Can't say I'm surprised. You were always too selfish to keep a woman happy." Mom appeared from the kitchen, looking at me with disappointment. "Wesley, you chose the military over your marriage. Camden was there for Meredith when you weren't. You've got no one to blame but yourself." I stood in their living room, furnished with the couch I'd bought them, decorated with the television I'd purchased, and felt reality reshaping around me. "Camden stole my wife while I was deployed," I said. "He betrayed me, betrayed our family. How can you defend that?" Dad sat in his recliner, the one I'd bought for his back problems. "Camden didn't steal anything. Meredith made her own choice. Maybe if you'd been a better husband, she wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere." "A better husband? I was serving my country, leading soldiers in combat. How does that make me a bad husband?" "You were never here, Wesley. Always gone, always choosing the military over your responsibilities at home." Their words were designed to cut. But what hurt more was realizing this conversation had been rehearsed. They discussed this situation, decided where their loyalties lay, and chosen Camden over me. "How long have you known?" I asked. My parents exchanged glances. "About 6 months, Dad said finally. Camden came to us, explained the situation. Said Meredith was lonely, that she needed someone who could be there for her." 6 months. They'd known for 6 months and never said a word to me. "And you approved?" "We understood," Mom said. "Camden's a good man. He can give Meredith the attention she deserves. What about loyalty to your other son? Dad's laugh was harsh. Loyalty? Wesley, what have you ever done for this family besides send money? You've been gone more than you've been home since you were 18. Camden's been here helping us, being a real son. I've been paying your mortgage for 3 years, I said, my voice rising. I've sent you over $100,000 in the past 5 years alone. Money isn't everything, Mom said primly. But it is something. And it's something I've provided while building my career and serving my country. You can't eat honor, Wesley, Mom said mockingly. Meredith needed a real partner, not a hero complex. The conversation continued for another hour, but the message was clear. I was the selfish son who'd chosen military service over family obligations. Camden was the devoted son who'd stayed close to home. Meredith was the victim who deserved happiness with a man who would prioritize her properly. I left my parents' house understanding that I had no family anymore. The people I'd supported financially for years had chosen sides in my personal catastrophe, and they'd chosen against me. That evening, I drove to Camden's apartment complex. Both their cars were in the parking lot, Meredith's Honda Civic, which I'd bought her, parked next to Camden's truck, which I'd helped him purchase. I climbed to the 3rd floor and knocked on Camden's door. Meredith answered, wearing a robe, looking more relaxed than I'd seen her in years. Behind her, Camden appeared shirtless, holding a beer bottle. Wesley, she said flatly. What are you doing here? We need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. I left you a note. Camden appeared beside her, clearly establishing dominance. Hey brother. Welcome home. The casual tone, the smirk, the complete lack of shame, it was like being sucker punched. Camden, what the hell is wrong with you? Wrong with me? I took care of your wife when you couldn't be bothered to come home. I'd say that makes me a pretty good brother. You were deployed, Wesley, Meredith said coldly. Always gone, always choosing the military over me. Camden was here. He understands me. That service paid for this apartment, Camden. It paid for the car Meredith drives, the lifestyle you've both been enjoying while I was getting shot at in Afghanistan. Camden's smirk widened. And we appreciate that. But appreciation doesn't make you a good husband. The argument continued, but the positions were clear. I was the absentee husband who'd prioritized military service over marriage. Camden was the devoted brother-in-law who'd provided support. Meredith was the neglected wife who'd found love with someone who understood her needs. When I finally left their apartment, I understood my marriage was over, my relationship with my brother was destroyed, and my family had chosen sides against me. But I also understood something else. I was done being their victim. The divorce proceedings were swift and brutal. Colorado's no-fault divorce laws meant Meredith didn't need to prove anything beyond irreconcilable differences. Her affair was legally irrelevant. I hired Catherine Mason, a family law attorney who was a former Air Force officer. She understood military benefits and the unique challenges service members faced in civilian courts. The discovery process revealed that our joint savings account had been systematically drained during my deployment. Not just the $20,000 Meredith mentioned, but nearly everything we'd accumulated together. Where did the money go? Catherine asked. My family, I admitted. Emergency after emergency. Over $60,000 in the past 2 years. $60,000 to your family while your wife was planning to leave you? The settlement required me to liquidate my TSP account early, pay penalties, and take out a loan to buy out Meredith's share of the house. She got $65,000 cash and half the furniture. I got the house, my military retirement benefits, and a clear understanding of who my real family was. The divorce was finalized 6 months after my return from Afghanistan. But the real transformation began when I made the hardest decision of my adult life. Cutting off all financial support to my family in Kansas. I called my bank and canceled all automatic transfers. I closed joint accounts my parents could access. I removed my name from their loans and insurance policies. Then I wrote a clear letter explaining my decision. After 15 years of providing financial support, I am ending all monetary assistance effective immediately. This decision is based on your unanimous support for Camden's affair with my wife during my combat deployment. Since you believe I have been a selfish family member despite sending over $100,000 home during my military career, you should have no difficulty managing without further contributions from someone you consider irresponsible. This decision is final and non-negotiable. The calls started immediately. 17 missed calls and a dozen voicemails that first weekend, progressing from confusion to anger to panic. Wesley, there must be some mistake with the bank transfers. Wesley, this is ridiculous. You can't abandon your family because you're upset. Wesley Kane, you call us back right now. When I didn't respond, they tried different approaches. Guilt, manipulation, bargaining. But the most revealing call came from Camden 3 weeks later. Wesley, this is affecting real people. Mom and Dad could lose the house. My business is going to fail. Camden, I said calmly, when you decided to seduce my wife while I was deployed, did you consider how it would affect real people? Specifically me? We fell in love. We didn't plan it. You made choices. I'm making choices. The difference is my choices are legal and moral. I hung up and blocked all their numbers. The financial consequences hit them within 2 months. The farm went into foreclosure. My parents moved into a small rental house, both taking part-time jobs. Camden's business collapsed without my loan support. I felt no guilt. They'd made their choices, now they were living with the consequences. Without family financial obligations, I could see how much money I actually made. I paid off my truck, maxed out my TSP contributions, started an investment account. Within 6 months, I had more savings than I'd ever accumulated while married. But the real transformation was personal. I started running every morning, joined a gym, took cooking classes. Most importantly, I connected with people who understood service, sacrifice, and authentic relationships. The Fort Carson Officers Club became my social hub. Career military officers, defense contractors, and veterans created a community of people who respected duty and integrity. Kane, you seem different lately, observed Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez. More relaxed. I got rid of some toxic relationships, I replied. Turns out that has a positive effect on mental health. I started volunteering at the Warrior Family Support Center, helping other service members navigate personal crises. Soldiers dealing with divorce during deployment, families struggling with transitions. I found purpose in supporting people fighting battles I understood. Major Kane, said Staff Sergeant Williams during one counseling session, my wife filed for divorce while I was in Iraq. She cleaned out our account and moved in with her ex-boyfriend. How do I start over? Sergeant, first you protect your remaining assets. Second, you recognize that her choices aren't a reflection of your worth. Third, you build something better. How do you know it gets better? Because I've been exactly where you are. And now I'm in a place where their betrayal can't touch me. 6 months after my divorce, I was promoted to lieutenant colonel. The ceremony was attended by my unit, veteran friends, and colleagues who respected my service. No family from Kansas, no ex-wife, no drama, just people who valued what I'd accomplished. I started dating Dr. Sarah Martins, a civilian doctor who volunteered at the VA hospital. She was the daughter of a career Navy officer who understood that military service was honorable, that deployments were professional obligations, not personal abandonments. Wesley, she said after we'd been dating for 6 months, I want you to know that I'm proud of your service. What you do matters, and anyone who doesn't understand that doesn't deserve you. It was validation I'd never received from my family, support I'd never gotten from Meredith, respect I'd never known I was missing. Sarah consistently demonstrated the qualities I valued. She volunteered helping veterans, supported her family without enabling dysfunction, communicated directly rather than manipulating through guilt. Most importantly, she had her own career and financial stability. She didn't need me to rescue her, she wanted to build something together because we shared similar values. 3 years after returning from Afghanistan, my life had stabilized into genuine contentment. My career flourished, I was selected for Command and General Staff College, positioned for further advancement. My house had become a home I was proud of, with aggressive mortgage payments that would have it paid off within 5 years. My relationship with Sarah had deepened into something solid. We'd moved in together after 18 months, discussing engagement and planning a future built on authentic partnership. Then the phone call started again. The first came from Mom. Wesley, there's been a development in the family situation. The second from Camden, things have changed. Meredith and I didn't work out. She left me 6 months ago. Can we talk? The third from Dad, your mother's in the hospital. Heart problems. She needs to see you. I called the hospital directly. Mom had been treated for anxiety and released the same day. No heart problems, just another manipulation. Each message revealed more about their situation. Camden's business had failed completely. He was working at an insurance agency, struggling to pay basic bills. Meredith had left him for another man with more money. My parents were cleaning houses and working part-time retail, facing retirement with no savings. The most revealing call came from Meredith herself. Wesley, I know I have no right to call you, but I need you to know how sorry I am. I made terrible mistakes. I realize now what I gave up when I left you. Camden wasn't who I thought he was. He's irresponsible with money, he drinks too much, he doesn't understand commitment. Is there any chance we could try again? I hung up without saying a word. The reconciliation attempts continued for another year. Letters, emails, messages through acquaintances, they tried every approach except genuine accountability and respect for my boundaries. Their communications followed predictable patterns. Minimizing betrayal, mistakes were made, emphasizing hardship, we're struggling, promising changes they'd never demonstrated, we've learned so much. Not once did anyone acknowledge their choices had been fundamentally wrong. Not once did anyone take full responsibility. Not once did anyone recognize I had the right to protect myself from people who'd proven untrustworthy. The final attempt came from Camden on the 4th anniversary of my return. He appeared at my door uninvited. Wesley, please, just 5 minutes? We're family. That has to count for something. I looked at him through the screen door. He was thinner, wearing old clothes, driving a beat-up car. Camden, what do you want? I want my brother back. I want to fix our family. Meredith left me, took what little money I had. I realize now that what we had as brothers was more important than any woman. Camden, do you know why I cut you out of my life? Because I slept with Meredith while you were deployed. No. I cut you out because you betrayed me, then justified it. Because Mom and Dad supported you instead of me. Because all of you treated my military service like a character flaw instead of service to our country. I was young and stupid. You were 32. That's old enough to know better. He shifted uncomfortably. I've learned from it. Meredith leaving taught me what betrayal feels like. Now I understand how you felt. Do you? Do you understand what it felt like to come home from combat to find my wife gone and my family defending the man who stole her? Yes, I think I do. No, Camden, you don't. Because if you did, you wouldn't be here asking me to pretend it never happened. I stepped outside to make sure he understood the finality of what I was about to say. Camden, you made a choice 4 years ago to betray me, sleep with my wife, break up my marriage. Mom and Dad chose to support you instead of me. Those choices have consequences, and one consequence is that I don't trust any of you anymore. But we're family. No, we're not. Family supports each other, has each other's backs. Family doesn't steal wives or defend thieves or blame victims for their own betrayals. What do you want me to do? I can't change what happened. I don't want you to do anything. I want you to live with your choices just like I'm living with mine. My choice is to surround myself with people who respect honor, loyalty, and service. That doesn't include you. What about Mom and Dad? They're struggling. They made their choice when they supported you instead of me. Now they can live with the consequences. Camden left without another word. I never saw him again. 6 months later, Sarah and I were married at the base chapel, surrounded by military friends and veteran colleagues who understood that service and sacrifice deserved respect rather than exploitation. As I stood at the altar watching Sarah walk down the aisle, I realized I'd never been happier. The family that had rejected me for choosing duty over dysfunction was not present. The people who'd supported my growth and celebrated my success surrounded us instead. During the reception, Colonel Morrison offered a toast. To Wesley and Sarah, 2 people who understand that real families are built on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine support. Later, as we danced to our wedding song, Sarah whispered, "I'm proud to be married to a man who knows the difference between family and people who share your DNA." I pulled her closer, understanding finally that I hadn't lost a family 4 years ago. I discovered what family really meant. If this story resonated with you, it's because you understand that family loyalty should be a two-way street. Too many military service members have experienced families who take financial support for granted while criticizing the very service that makes that support possible. Wesley's journey shows us that cutting toxic relationships, even family relationships, isn't cruel, it's necessary for personal growth and authentic happiness. Those sacrifices deserve respect, not exploitation. Have you ever experienced family members who took your generosity for granted while criticizing your choices? How did you learn to set boundaries with people who confused your loyalty with their entitlement? If you enjoyed this story about military resilience and choosing authentic relationships over toxic family ties, like this video and subscribe for your daily dose of chilling revenge tales. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the best way to honor your service is to surround yourself with people who understand its value.